Hi, I'm Supervisor Don Knabe. I'm pleased to welcome you back to another episode of Dialed In. Los Angeles County stretches 4,000 square miles from the Pacific Ocean to the San Gabriel Mountains, with 88 cities and over 140 unincorporated communities in between. All of it is interconnected by very critical infrastructure that is overseen and maintained by our Los Angeles County Department of Public Works. From roads, traffic, signals, bridges, sewers, airports, dams, the Department of Public Works touches the lives of each of our 10 million Los Angeles County residents. With a more than $2 billion budget, the department provides many of the municipal services necessary to keep our residents safe and our communities protected. This month, I'm pleased to welcome our Director of Public Works, as well as the department's resident expert on the drought, and the project manager of an upcoming public works project that is very, very near and dear to my heart. I hope you'll enjoy the show.
Is this the place?
Looks like it.
With Charter Spectrum, you get the best TV. And with TV everywhere, you can take your shows out on the road.
Ah!
So no matter where you go, you'll always have a world of new things to explore.
It's a big sausage.
Get the most crystal clear HD channels and TV you can take everywhere.
I got the keys.
Charter Spectrum. Where will it take you?
Welcome back to Dial In. My first guest today is the Director of the Department of Public Works, Gail Farber. Gail has served as the Director of one of the largest public work agencies in the entire country since 2008. She also serves as our County Road Commissioner, our County Engineer, our Chief Engineer of the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. Thanks for joining me today, Gail.
Thank you, Supervisor. Glad to be here.
Well, let's start from the beginning with the department. Maybe you can give us sort of a brief historical. It wasn't always the Department of Public Works.
Well, thank you. Well, we started originally as 3 different departments, and in 1985, the board decided...
And those 3 different departments were?
There was the County Engineer, the County Road Department, and the Flood Control District. And so in 1985 is when the 3 departments were consolidated to one Department of Public Works. So it's now been 30 years as we've been one department, of which, as you mentioned, I have the many hats: Chief Engineer of the Flood Control District, the County Engineer, and the County Road Commissioner.
Do you have 3 different hats in your office?
I
and
do.
You pick one of the day?
No.
All right, so 4,000 square miles, 88 cities, 140 unincorporated communities. That's a lot of infrastructure to maintain. So how many miles of roads and sidewalks does the department oversee? How many potholes do you fill annually? I mean, you know, fill them with facts.
Fill them with facts. Well, when we consolidated, we reorganized our functions into 6 main core service areas and operations. So transportation would be one of them. Waste management is another. Water resources, development and permitting services, capital project buildings and public buildings, project delivery, and of course emergency planning and management. So part of that infrastructure in the transportation arena would be the ones associated with our roadways, with over 5,000 miles of roads.
5,000 miles of roads, that's a lot.
Yeah, and with that comes the sidewalks and the trees and the storm drains, the parkway trees, the landscape maintenance, traffic signals, traffic signs, pretty much roadway safety and parkway safety.
Well, can we just sort of back up to the traffic signals? There is a part of your responsibility as an agency that I don't think a lot of people realize, and it has to do with the traffic signalization, or synchronization, excuse me, of the traffic signals. Maybe you can give us an idea of how many, I mean, where we're at on that. I mean, we're trying to move throughout the entire county, as I understand.
Right, throughout the county, of course, it's not just Public Works in managing traffic. It's Metro, it's Caltrans, all the cities, so the local roadways and arterials. And so the County Public Works has a traffic management center where we monitor the main arterials. And so far, we have a very progressive program to work with the cities and in partnership with Metro in connecting over 2,700 intersections together so that we can synchronize and monitor all these intersections real time. So if there are problems, whether it's on the highway that spills, the freeway that spills over into local city streets, that we can adjust the timing to facilitate traffic flow.
So I tell everyone, so the average person out there driving along South Street in Lakewood and Cerritos and or Lakewood Boulevard, and they see 39 miles an hour. If they stay at 39 miles an hour, they're going to hit all the signals, right? I mean, is that?
In
that's the
theory.
kind of, in theory.
Yes.
But that's the kind of thing that you oversee and set up and control by computer in your safety center.
Correct, and we also have a Twitter account to communicate and when signals do go out, if they're on flashing red or not, to alert motorists. And so we have the county has the iPhone app, and we rely on that as well for the
LA
traveling
Works, right?
Yeah, the apps, it's called The Works.
The Works.
And they go on that.
I have it on my iPhone.
And any roadway hazard, including traffic signals that maybe are too long, or whether they think they're broken, or whether they think there's an unsafe situation, whether it's a downed tree limb, we encourage anybody to report it, and then we route that to the appropriate jurisdiction or handle it immediately for emergencies.
As I tell folks, I mean, obviously we're talking a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities that you do each and every day. But Public Works is really part of the first responder team. You know, everybody thinks of fire and sheriff and, you know, those kinds of highway patrol. But really, Public Works, in a situation, whether it be floods, earthquakes, fires, whatever it may be, plays a very important role in our emergency response. Maybe you could give the viewers an idea of really the broad responsibility you have as a department to make sure that you're on the front lines immediately with all our public safety personnel.
Well, thank you. Yes, Public Works is a first responder agency, a public safety partner. We work very closely with Sheriff and Fire Office, the County Office of Emergency Management in managing, we're either planning for, responding to, or recovering from any type of incident. And so we maintained a highly equipped and well-trained workforce to respond to daily incidences. That could be a water main break, it could be a signal outage. We treat it as an emergency through our dispatch center. We have a 24-hour dispatch center that anybody can call at any time to report a hazard. Of course, not a 911 health emergency, should always be through 911, but any type of roadway, we strongly encourage people to call our dispatch center. It's a 1-800 number, 1-800-675-HELP, H-E-L-P, and one of our dispatch personnel will report that and have it handled. That's 24/7, and that we also handle about 50,000 calls for service annually, and so it's a busy setup in addition to the day-to-day operations and maintaining the infrastructure throughout the county.
The other thing that you do, I mean, not just even responding like that, but you know, your team has done a marvelous job. You know, as you get weather reports, if you get certain situations, you prepare in advance and getting equipment available just in case, right? Reservoirs or areas cleaned out.
Thank you. Yes, we do that. We have our own weather unit that monitors the weather. We work with the National Weather Service so that we're busy planning for having storm patrols, patrolling all our roadways and our dams for whether it's going to be flooding, whether it's a windstorm, and to work with our Office of Emergency Management personnel. I think the important part is to communicate early and often and to get that word out to the public. And we do that also through our Twitter as well as through Office of Emergency Management announcements.
On the reverse 911 kind of thing.
Correct. Thank you.
So airports, flood control, traffic signals, first responder, all capital projects, all those things going on. It's a pretty amazing department, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. I'm really proud of our team.
How many people, how many folks does the Department of Public Works employ to take care of all these multiple different kinds of issues?
Our department employs about 4,000 employees. Our headquarters in Alhambra, and the other half of those are headquarters in Alhambra. The other half are located about 77 field offices throughout the region. We have about a $2 billion capital project and operating budget, and then in our capital project side, of course, I understand you had Jake and Williams on to talk about capital buildings, and that's managing about 150 active capital projects valued anywhere from $2 to $3 billion. So that responsibility as well throughout the year.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be with me. Why don't you give our viewers the web page? What is it? DPW?
dpw.lacounty.gov.
Gail Farber, our Director of Public Works.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All right.
Game night. That magical weekly gathering where lands are conquered. And you get trapped in the dungeon that is your bedroom. But you've got blazing fast Spectrum internet. So Kevin and his friends have enough bandwidth to play together. And you have enough left over to find a new apartment. Get 100 megabits of dragon-slaying speed with Spectrum internet. Where will it take you?
Welcome back to Dial In. My next guest is Gary Hildebrand, a 30-year veteran of the Department of Public Works who oversees all aspects of flood control as well as stormwater management. Gary and his teams are leading our county's efforts to deal with this region's crippling drought through conservation and investment in water collecting infrastructure. Thanks for joining me today, Gary.
Sure, I'm pleased to be here, Supervisor.
Well, let's start with the easy part. Where does the county get their water from?
Well, we get our water from a number of sources. About 2/3 of our water is imported from either Northern California or the Colorado River. The remaining third comes from local sources, primary groundwater. And those groundwater basins that we utilize for that local supply are recharged through the efforts that are done by Public Works with the flood control facilities and stormwater management facilities that we have.
So before we get into sort of how we get there and we recharge the water and pick that up, obviously, you know, I'm out and around a lot and people sort of get tired of hearing about the drought, but they're really responding well. Although people may be tired about hearing about it, they're doing some good things. Is there any end in sight, do you think?
Well, you know, we're in the 4th year of what's, I think, by and large, the worst drought that California has faced. And we hear a lot about El Nino coming this winter, and you hear it in the news, and, you know, we've had El Ninos in the past. It's a mixed blessing. I mean, in some cases, El Nino will bring you more rainfall. Other years it's been dry. What El Nino can do for you is generally give, you know, more intense storm events, so hopefully we'll get more rain. But we'll have to see how it pans out in terms of whether we end up getting more rain this year or not.
Well, as you mentioned, we're 4 years into this drought, very severe. So what do our water levels look like at our reservoirs and as well as our dams?
Well, on a statewide basis, looking at Northern California, many of our reservoirs there are around 38% of their capacity, which is particularly low for this time of year. When we look at the reservoirs that we have locally in LA County, the flood control district, we operate 14 dams that we use to capture stormwater, and we've only seen about 9% of the normal water that we get this year.
9%?
9% of what we normally get in, so it's been extremely dry.
So what has the department been doing to deal with that issue as well as just drought in general?
Well, all of the water agencies in Southern California, together with the flood control district, you know, we've been working for years in developing additional infrastructure so we can sustain ourselves through such a drought. Public Works, the flood control district individually, we've spent over $200 million over the last 10 years to improve the storage capacity at our dams, at our spreading grounds, to be able to capture more local stormwater and put that in the ground. With the efforts we've done over the last 10 years, we've actually been able to capture enough stormwater to serve an additional 160,000 residents in the county.
Well, what, as an example, I was just curious. I was up at the Morris Dam and been up there celebrating your 100th anniversary. But so we spent over $200 million. So without that investment over the last number of years, probably not anticipating a severe drought, but know that everything runs through cycles, what would it be like? I mean, if you say we're only 9% of capacity, some of that capacity had to be captured by some of our infrastructure, right?
Yeah, the small amount of runoff that we did get this winter, I mean, we were able to capture that with our stormwater infrastructure and use that to recharge our groundwater basins. But what we've done is, you know, work collectively with other water agencies throughout the county to basically have the infrastructure so in wetter years we have more water, we can capture more of that, put it in the ground, replenish our groundwater basins. When drier years come, such as what we've been suffering over the last several years, we can draw on that to help sustain us through the drought. Also, the local water agencies have worked to be able to build storage, so in the same wetter years, we also have more water available from our imported sources. And we'll bring that down here locally, store it locally, and be able to draw that as a supply to help us get through the drought.
Well, I've noticed, you know, there's a lot of turf removal going on. If I was going to be in a business right now, I want to be in the drought-resistant plant business. But what you know, people have done a lot to conserve, but isn't it true that about 80% of our water use is agriculture?
It is.
Is that true in Los Angeles County too?
Well, in Los Angeles County, we don't really have that much agriculture. But when you look statewide, yes, the vast majority of water, 80% or so, is used by agriculture. And you know, they have been making efforts over the years to be more efficient with their use and use more, you know, drought-tolerant landscape irrigation techniques. The State Water Board, I mean, looking at what needs to be done on a statewide basis, I mean, they're looking at all of us having to sort of contribute to help get us through the drought, both the agricultural uses and also the urban areas. So it's sort of a collective effort that's needed
Sort
to
of
be
a
done.
toss-up. There's a lot of debate going on up and down the state, who gets the water and who doesn't. It's not making friendships right now. So,
yeah, it is. I mean, you look at traditionally over the years, you know, certain agricultural interests have had water rights to our water supplies, and those are really being tested now in terms of how we're able to utilize them. And I know that on a statewide basis, our water agencies are really trying to work together to be able to best manage what we have. I think you've got agricultural interests recognize that they need to contribute and be part of that, and I think you're seeing them changing what their practices.
So what kind of rebates does the county offer to help in this situation? What kind of programs are out there?
Well, there are a number of programs available through the local water retailers, everything from rebates for using more water efficient washing machines, dishwashers. There's rebates for using more water efficient irrigation systems. Also, we have mentioned turf removal. I mean, close to 70 to 80% of residential water use is outdoors. So really the most effective way for residents to reduce their water use is to target reducing their outdoor landscape irrigation.
So the folks out there, I mean, are these available through the Department of Public Works or through their cities or through water agencies, or how does someone go about?
Yeah, the rebates are available through your local water agency. So residents throughout the county and in county incorporated areas, if they know who their water company is, they can contact them and they will have all of these typical rebates available. We also have on our website, lacountydrought.com, we have a water service provider finder. So any county resident can go in there, find their local
And
water
what is that,
retailer.
LA County Drought?
lacountydrought.com.
LACountyDrought.com. Very good. So here's another little piece, because we don't have a lot of time left, but
Yeah.
desalinization. I know it's not the panacea for all things, but obviously there's an opportunity there. I also, in my district, represent an island, Catalina Island, and Avalon has a small plant
Right.
that they're revitalizing. We're looking at turning up another one
Right.
over there. Carlsbad, I believe, has a unit in place. Is desalinization part of the answer to what we're dealing with, other than having more rain?
Well, desalination, I think, is one of the tools in our toolbox in dealing with our water supply issues. We also have the opportunities to look at using more recycled wastewater and also stormwater capture, as we mentioned earlier. I think where desal fits in, I think, depends on the particular circumstances. You mentioned in Avalon, they have limited options, so they look at desal as one of the routes they're going to take to increase their local supply. In the greater LA region, I think we have a lot of opportunity to use more recycled wastewater and also do more stormwater capture, which is far less costly than desal. So I think we would be looking at using those less costly opportunities first before we move to desal.
But as I say, we've made all this great investment in infrastructure, but to capture water, we need water, right? I mean, so that's part of the problem. Maybe those little orange circles out there that the weatherman shows you that El Niño's coming will really be helpful. Any quick tip, just one quick tip for conservation to the folks out there?
The best thing people can do is take a look at reducing their outdoor landscape irrigation. Watering 2 days a week, replacing turf, making sure your sprinklers are working efficiently. Those are some of the things you can easily do to reduce your water use.
Gary, thank you for taking the time to be
It's
with
my
us.
pleasure.
Thank you for all that you do on behalf of our county residents. Big job right now. Probably didn't figure you'd be in the forefront like this, but with a 4-year drought and things not getting better right now, it's a big effort on behalf of our Department of Public Works, and we appreciate your leadership and what you're doing.
Supervisor.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mom. She can cast judgment upon your entire adult life with the swipe of her finger. And now that she's missed her favorite show, nothing escapes her eye. Make that no one. But you got rid of satellite and switched to Spectrum TV with free primetime on demand. So she can watch last night's shows all week long. Unleash the mom-mellowing power of primetime on demand with Spectrum. Where will it take you?
Welcome back to Dialed In. My last guest today is Assistant Director Jacob Williams. Jacob is responsible for the management and delivery of the county's capital projects programs and will be overseeing the construction of the Rancho Los Amigos National Rehabilitation Center project. Thanks for joining me today, Jacob.
Thanks for having me, Supervisor.
So, Jacob, the department has a big role in capital projects. Maybe you can give us sort of an overview of the role that the department plays in multiple capital projects.
Sure. The department's mission in public buildings is to design and deliver high-performing public facilities for people and services to thrive. We manage projects across the county in a wide variety of settings, including planning, design, construction, and closeout. On average, annually, we manage 150 or so projects, estimated between $2 to $3 billion.
That's B with a capital B, right?
That's a capital B.
All right. So, I mean, when you do that, I mean, is it all done in-house, or is it outsourced, or is it a combination of both?
Generally, we outsource both design and construction to a team of professional consultants and contractor teams. Day-to-day project management is handled by the department's project managers, but truly, Supervisor, it's a team approach. The beauty of that approach is it allows us to be very responsive to the customer's needs and to respond very quickly to changes in the design and construction market.
And changes in design, footprint issues, all those kinds of things.
Exactly.
So maybe you could explain to our audience out there that some of the issues we deal with in trying to be green, and what our design issues are right now is that trying to be as responsible as we can to the environment.
You know, as you know, Supervisor, in 2007, the board passed its green building ordinance and adopted the USGBC's green building policy called LEED.
USGB is?
United States Green Building Council.
Okay.
And the county's policy requires us to achieve a LEED Silver rating for all buildings and new buildings and renovation in excess of 10,000 square feet, which is pretty much all the things that we do. Green building principles have really transformed the way that we think about designing communities and buildings and how they're operated over the years. For example, we routinely now include energy conserving fixtures and equipment. We use natural daylighting, water conserving fixtures, drought tolerant plants. It's really changed the way that we do business.
I noticed that in some of the design that you guys have been involved in my district as it relates to libraries and things like that. The use of light, but yet the same kind of materials so that it doesn't build up heat as well too. And it's, maybe you can explain quickly the difference between like this LEED Silver and LEED Gold. I mean, it's just different levels, right?
They're just different levels of how far we go to ensure that the building is really environmentally sensitive. We've done buildings that are as low as LEED Silver, which is the policy that we have, but we've done LEED Gold, and we're trying to do some LEED Platinum projects on a case-by-case basis. It just depends on what the budget will allow for.
Well, the budget has to allow for at least silver, right?
It has to, at a minimum, it's silver.
Right, and on time and on budget. All your projects are on time, on budget, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask that.
And I'll reiterate that, on time, on budget.
So, a project that's very near and dear to my heart, obviously, is the Rancho Los Amigos Hospital. I mean, one of the top rehabilitation hospitals in the entire United States. The department's getting ready to start construction on Rancho Rising 2020 project. That's, as I said, is very near and dear to my heart, but maybe you can give us sort of some of the history of Rancho and what's in store for this major project.
Well, the Rancho campus has got a lot of history to it. It was founded in 1888. Prior to that, it actually was a farm for the poor. Over the years, by 1930, the different buildings were being added to the campus over the next number of years. In 1930, the Harriman Building was constructed. Between the 1950s and 1970, various medical support buildings were constructed on the campus. And then in 1993, the Jacqueline Perry Institute was built in honor of the renowned orthopedic surgeon who assisted and aided polio patients in the 50s. It's a hospital campus has got a lot of history to it.
Well, you mentioned Dr. Perry, who was just a marvelous woman who just recently passed away, still going to the hospital every day up until she really couldn't. Just for the folks out there, just so they know, I mean, when you talk about the history and you talk about polio, at one time, I mean, Rancho was one of the premier polio facilities in the country, and there's this great photos that they have in the Harriman building of these massive rooms full of these iron lungs and things like that. And fast forward now today, there's a post-polio syndrome that's coming back, and so a lot of the previous polio patients are having to deal with that, and Rancho once again is sort of getting into that business. So this project's a massive project about to get underway. You know, what really went in, you know, the touch and feel of the Harriman building and the campus in general, what went into designing the overall look to really make the hospital look modern but yet retain that wonderful feel that we know as Rancho?
Well, you know, a lot goes into the design of a hospital. The Rancho project will have a very distinctive, modern, kind of state-of-the-art look and feel to it. But it will also draw on the rich history of mission-style buildings that are on the Rancho campus. The placement of the buildings around a central plaza, punctuated by an iconic tower that helps with wayfinding, is consistent with the mission style, but helps to create the sense of a heart and a center to the medical campus.
Well, the synergy I like about that design, and when you just said it's simply a tower, a sort of a iconic tower, what people don't realize is the folks that are in wheelchairs sometimes can't see above. So this tower will represent the entrance.
Yes, it will.
And it'll give those kinds of patients that maybe are coming to Rancho for the first time, and you know, all that situation. So it's really an amazing facility. I'm really excited about it. How much, approximately when are we going to start to break ground, do you think?
Well, we're already underway with respect to demolition work and some site prep work, but within the next 30 days, the design builder will actually begin formal demolition, and following that, start with the design and construction of the hospital.
Because it's not just infrastructure kinds of issues. We're building a new outpatient center, as I understand, as well as an aquatic center.
Well, your description of the project as massive is spot on, Supervisor. It's got an acute care hospital, an outpatient center, a wellness center, a wellness and aquatic center, miscellaneous medical support buildings, an expansion to the parking structure. All told, 320,000 square feet as a part will be new and renovated as a part of an over 1 million square feet hospital campus. So a lot is going to go on here.
So it's going to be magnificent. It's going to be on time and on budget, correct?
Absolutely.
Can I hear you say that? On time?
On time and on budget. Just like the Manhattan Beach Library project.
So what other, quickly, we don't have much time left, but what other projects are coming down the line from Public Works perspective?
Well, we've got a number of projects on the boards, but probably the one that is the next big thing, Supervisor, is attracting a lot of attention from the design and construction industry, is the jail replacement program, which is estimated somewhere between $1.8 and $2 billion. So you can imagine the kind of attention that's attracting.
Right, and just the footprint. I mean, that's the debate right now. How many beds do you actually have? The diversion piece, the mental health piece. That's going to be a massive project that's going to be on time and on budget.
On time and on budget.
Jacob, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
When you have enough internet speed for everyone in your home, Mom can video chat with Grandma. Your daughter can check her favorite sites. Your son can conquer the galaxy. And you'll still have enough bandwidth to conquer your first warrior pose.
As you further energize your back,
Get internet speed starting at 60 megabits per second with Charter Spectrum. Where will it take you?
Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. I want to thank our special guests, Gail Farber, Gary Hildebrand, and Jacob Williams, for taking the time to join me today on this show. From roads and sidewalks to sewers and dams, Public Works is the thread keeping the County of Los Angeles and its infrastructure together. The Department of Public Works is a fascinating organization that really touches the lives of all of our 10 million residents. To learn more about the department and about their efforts to lead the region in water conservation and collection, please visit dpw.lacounty.gov. Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. We'll be back next month with an all-new show.